Have you ever felt tired, even after a full night of sleep? Like the weight you carry isn't in your muscles, but somewhere between your chest and your thoughts. A silent pressure, an invisible discomfort that never fully goes away. Maybe you've called it stress, or routine, or anxiety. But deep down you know it's more than that. Something doesn't fit. Maybe it's the world, maybe it's you, or maybe it's what you see, and no one else seems to notice. Sometimes it starts like a whisper. You're in a room smiling at someone, playing your part, but a part of you is drifting, detached, observing everything from a place just outside the moment. And while the world rushes ahead, you find yourself asking, why does it all feel so fake? There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from the body. It comes from the soul, from pretending, from acting like everything's okay when something inside you is unraveling. You respond to messages, you finish tasks, you meet expectations, but each move takes a piece of your presence, and slowly you start to disappear. Even from yourself, you feel like a stranger in the crowd, translating thoughts no one asked for, sensing things others ignore, longing for something you can't name, a place you've never been, a truth you've never seen. But somehow, you miss it. You notice patterns in the noise. You see emptiness behind the scripted smiles. You feel too much. And that sensitivity, once a gift, begins to feel like a curse. Something that isolates you. Something no one understands. So you start to wonder, is there something wrong with me? While the world celebrates ease, simplicity, and loudness, you carry depth, silence, and endless questions, not because you want to complicate life, but because you can't unsee what you see. You can't unknow what you feel. And maybe, just maybe, that's not a weakness. Maybe the world just hasn't learned how to listen to people like you. Because what feels like a burden might actually be your gift. If you've carried this weight in silence, if you've felt like a misfit in a world too loud, maybe it's time to stop running from the silence and start listening to what it's trying to say. When did being free start to hurt so much? They told us that freedom meant being able to choose, to create, to build, to own your time. But somewhere along the way, that promise turned into pressure. Now you have to be everything, all the time. It's not enough to simply live. You have to perform, even in your silence. And the most brutal part, the pressure doesn't come from the outside. It comes from you. You're your own boss, they say. But you're also the overseer, the critic, the one who never lets you rest. Every pause feels like a mistake, as if stopping even for a moment is a sign of failure. Even in rest, your mind races. Am I doing enough? Byung-Chul Han called it the performance society, where it's no longer someone else exploiting you. It's you. You exploit your own focus, your time, your energy, your soul. You become both the product and the consumer. You sell your attention until there's none left for yourself, and freedom becomes a display window, an illusion you're expected to keep spotless. You can be anything you want, as long as you keep producing, posting, improving. And if you fail, it's your fault. Because now, even failure has been privatized. You're not unhappy, just not optimized. And in this exhausting theater of autonomy, you begin to fragment. Every goal, every challenge, every new version of you comes at a cost. Your spontaneity, your joy in useless things, the sacred emptiness of doing nothing. You were trained to run, but no one taught you to ask. Run toward what? Michel Foucault said that modern prisons have no walls. They are built from words. And maybe the most suffocating phrase of all is, you can do anything. Because if you can do anything, then why do you still feel so trapped? In the pursuit of freedom, we've become soldiers of performance, time no longer belongs to us. Attention became currency, and the soul. Just another algorithm. Even silence feels dangerous. But what if that discomfort you feel, that sense of not fitting in, of not performing like others, isn't a weakness, but a sacred refusal? What if real freedom is quieter than we imagined? Maybe it's not at the top of the mountain, but in the simple act of stepping down from it. Maybe it's just this: turning off the noise, closing your eyes, and asking yourself, who am I, when no one is watching? Have you ever felt like something inside you is always on the edge of breaking, but never does? It's like living at the edge of an invisible limit. Everything seems to work, but nothing makes sense. You answer the messages, you attend the meetings, you smile when you're supposed to, but inside something is screaming, quietly. A scream buried under productivity and notifications. There's a kind of exhaustion that sleep doesn't touch, a fatigue that settles behind the eyes, in the center of the forehead. Among thoughts that trip over themselves trying to get out, it's like trying to breathe underwater, calm on the outside, but drowning on the inside, and no one notices. Because modern collapse doesn't scream, it doesn't bleed, it doesn't leave a mark. It just hides in the small things, in the shrinking of joy, in the fading of your spark, in the growing sense that you're always out of place. Even pleasure becomes a task. You need to meditate, you need hobbies, you need to take care of yourself. But when everything becomes a need, even self-care becomes exhausting. You begin to wonder, is there anything I do that isn't just another form of obligation? And then one day, a quiet voice inside whispers, enough, but not like an explosion. It's a soft surrender. You begin to retreat without saying a word, and if someone asks, you say, I'm just tired. But that quiet exhaustion might be the beginning of something new. Behind the collapse there might be a seed, something in you that no longer wants to rush, something that just wants to stop. Not to give up, but to exist without performing. And maybe, just maybe, the breakdown is the beginning of a breakthrough. Maybe you're not falling apart. Maybe you're shedding everything you were never meant to carry. And what comes next isn't the end. It's the first chance to truly listen to the part of you that's been waiting to be born. Have you ever been silent long enough to actually hear yourself? Not the silence of fatigue, but the silence of presence. A stillness that doesn't demand answers, doesn't count minutes, doesn't chase outcomes, it just is. And in that stillness, something forgotten starts to wake up. The world keeps screaming, but for the first time, you choose not to answer. It's not an escape, it's a return. The mind, once chaotic like a stormy lake, begins to settle, and from the depths something soft emerges. Old dreams, simple memories, the flavor of slow time. You start to see beauty in boredom. You find healing in nothingness, in the pause between thoughts, in the breath that enters gently, in the freedom of not having to explain yourself all the time, doing less to feel more. What once felt like wasting time now becomes sacred territory. You walk without a destination. You watch the wind. You listen to your own heartbeat, not to interpret it, but just to be with it. And then it hits you. There was life here all along. You were just too far away. You allow yourself to feel the sadness you ignored, the quiet joy you once found childish, the anger you swallowed. They all come back, not as enemies, but as parts of you, asking to be held. And for the first time, you listen without judgment. To contemplate becomes a revolutionary act. To sit and stare at the sky for 5 minutes, not as a productivity hack, but as a reunion with yourself. You're not doing something, you're being. And that is enough. something subtle happens. Your body's rhythm changes, your breath slows, your thoughts soften. You haven't left the world. You finally entered it. You remember how to listen to yourself, and instead of chasing goals, you start to create space. Space to not know, to feel, to change your mind. And in that space, something blooms. Not a better version of you, just you, unfiltered, whole. Being doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't require explanation. It's a quiet return to what moves you at the core. The world still races outside, but you found another path, the one where you walk with intention, and that's when everything changes. You no longer need to prove anything. You no longer need to hide. You no longer need to chase a dream that was never yours. You are still the same, but now you're complete, and that is more than enough. But now that you're whole again, what happens next? You don't wake up suddenly enlightened. There's no fireworks, no dramatic transformation, just small, quiet choices, like saying no without guilt, like resting before you're exhausted, like letting yourself feel without needing a reason. Healing doesn't look like a celebration. Sometimes it looks like sleeping in, like deleting the app, like not replying right away, like taking a deep breath in the middle of a busy day, and not apologizing for it. You begin to realize peace isn't something you chase, it's something you remember. And slowly your life starts to shift, not in big loud ways, but in the subtle, in the way you talk to yourself, in how you stop measuring your worth by your output, in how you stop rushing into the next thing just to avoid stillness. You begin to honor your own rhythm, to reclaim your own time, to say, this pace is mine. You notice the beauty in things you used to overlook, the texture of silence, the colors of the sky at 6 a.m., the way your breath feels when you're not holding it in. You stop narrating your life to others and start living it for yourself. You no longer feel the need to explain your sadness or prove your joy or defend your stillness, because now you trust it. You trust you. And in that trust, life softens. You realize that maybe you were never broken, just buried, under layers of noise, pressure, expectation, and fear. And now that you've peeled some of that away, you're finally seeing yourself clearly. Not perfect, not always confident, not always strong, but real, and real is enough. So you carry on, not faster but deeper, not louder but truer, not chasing but choosing. And when the world tries to pull you back into its rhythm of speed and noise and more, you remember you have another way, a quieter path, a steadier one. And if sometimes you forget, that's okay too. You now know how to return to yourself, to your breath, to the moment that asks nothing of you but your presence. This is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of one that's finally yours. So take your time, speak less, feel more, drop the mask, let yourself be seen by you. Not everything needs to be fixed. Not everything needs to be improved. Some things just need to be felt. And you just need to be lived. Fully, gently, quietly, and maybe, just maybe, that's the freedom you were looking for all along.